I called her and I said, I want to do a late night talk show. And she said, okay, well, let's make that happen. And E said, okay, yes, we have space. And then they said, maybe you do it one night a week just to make sure you have the flow. And I was like, no, I want to do 4 nights a week. Sure. Let's do a nightly show. And they said, Tina Fey and Busy, okay.
It should be fun. Should be fun.
I'm Peat.
I'm Marc, and welcome to FanCastit. Today we're talking about late night hosts, and we are talking about all things variety shows. So we talking Jimmy Fallon, we talking Stephen Colbert, we talking Conan O'Brien. But the 90s one, where he was actually funny and not a sad old man who looks like he's seen better things. Yeah. Actually, what should be noted about a lot of these shows is that unlike in its heyday, where a lot of people were watching these live, most of the content gets its generation of views from YouTube and what they put out on YouTube the next day. So just keep that in mind for our list.
All these late night hosts originally had late night hosts before them: Jay Leno, David Letterman.
And of course we can go back to the triple OGs, Johnny Carson, Dick Cavett, and it just keeps going further and further to older, whiter
But there's
men.
a common theme with all of these people.
Yep.
They're all men.
They're all men!
All middle-aged white men.
Well, they didn't start out as middle-aged.
Yeah.
I think they did all start out as middle-aged.
That's what I'm saying. So,
crazy.
kind of changed the demographic today.
Absolutely. So today we are going to flip the genders on all these people, and we are going to have our first top 8 late night talk hosts that should be hosted by women. So the rules of the game is we're going to take on late night talk shows that are currently airing on a major network, and we're going to flip it so that they're hosted by women.
All right, so let's get with the most popular one, the one that Jay Leno usually.
Yeah. All right, so the late night ratings giant for the past, I don't know, 30, 40 years or some nonsense like that.
Tonight Show.
The Tonight Show with Jay Leno, otherwise known as The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. So this show is meant to be a lot more lighthearted. It's meant to be not political, typically. And it's usually where stars go to play stupid games and do musical parodies.
Jimmy also does now a segment where he does like musical instruments with a band that's not actual musical instruments.
Oh, I love that segment.
Behind him.
It is hosted by the baddest band in late night, The Roots. Boom.
So we're going on to Tonight Show. My female pick is actually one of your favorite comedians.
Yes.
Tina Fey is my late night, or my Tonight Show talk show host.
Why?
Why? Because Tina Fey is like Will Ferrell to white people.
What?
You get over with a populated audience with like dumb humor. She was on 30 Rock for how many seasons?
So good.
I didn't like
So
that
good.
show either because I don't like her, Alec Baldwin, or Tracy Morgan in their respective rights. So, Tina Fey is my talk show host for The Tonight Show. I feel like she'd kill it because she did well at the Oscars.
Golden Globes.
Sorry, Golden Globes twice.
3 times.
3 times. Anyway, Tina Fey is my pick for The Tonight Show.
All right. My pick for The Tonight Show is a very similar woman, just slightly different. They're both SNL alums, which I think is perfect for somebody who is hosting The Tonight Show because they're goofy and weird. I picked Maya Rudolph. Maya Rudolph is, for those of you who don't know, not an incredibly famous actress because I don't think she's ever headlined her own movie, but she is kind of the go-to for side goofy characters, whether we're talking Bridesmaids, whether we're talking that stupid Muppet movie that's coming out in the next little while. She was a staple on a couple of different TV shows. She is a master of musical impressions. She literally can kind of chameleon herself into pretty much any music style, and I think that's right up along Jimmy Fallon's alley. So I think she'd have a lot of fun with that. She's also really easy to talk to, and because of that, I think guests would feel really warm around her. And whether it be somebody who's stuffy as the Vice President of the United States, or somebody who's a crazy person like Justin Timberlake, they would all kind of fit in the mix. Jimmy Kimmel Live.
Jimmy Kimmel Live is one of those shows that has become popular now for celebrity mean tweets.
Yes.
It's literally where people go to the talk show. It's more lighthearted, like The Tonight Show. kind of rivaling it almost in a sense. But Jimmy doesn't do as much. He just does more comedic stuff with the whole celebrity meme tweets or his rivalry with
Matt Damon.
Yeah. For years.
I would say that Jimmy Kimmel Live is kind of like the West Coast version of The Tonight Show.
Yep.
It's based in Los Angeles. It's really about Hollywood. Like, it's pretty much the go-to place where everybody goes after awards. Also, like you said, the mean tweets thing is killer and pretty much the most famous thing on the internet right now.
I got somebody from Parks and
Parks and
Rec.
Rec, yeah.
Okay, so I got Tina Fey's soul sister, Amy Poehler. You loved her book.
Yes.
You love her performance
So
at the Oscars. You somehow love her movies and her comedic style. I find nothing funny about this woman.
I own both of their autobiographies. It's like they're both on my bookshelf.
I don't know
read them a
how.
million times.
I don't know how. It's like it's blue white collar comedy to me. It's nonsensical. It's not
That's
funny.
a really good niche term.
It's
Blue
not
white collar
funny.
comedy. I like that.
I have her taking over for Jimmy Kimmel because on that show it fits, and she doesn't have to do a whole lot. She just has to do segments. People can take over the segments for her. And then just do one interview, done.
I have a slightly different choice. Somebody who's a bit more of a writer than an actor. I have Mindy Kaling. Not only would we be breaking ground as putting the first Asian American person hosting a late night talk show, but she's also kind of a veteran in her own rights as somebody who is a writer for The Office, a recurring character on The Office, and also the writer, producer, and director of her own TV show, The Mindy Project. Not my favorite comedian on the planet, but she kind of portrays herself as a very obsessed with pop culture type character. And I think that she would work perfectly in somewhere like the Hollywood Hills, where she can take over segments like mean tweets. She's really big on hot button topics in Hollywood and things that, real everyday Americans don't really care about. And that's perfect for her.
Getting to our next one, The Late Late Show, who's now hosted by James Courtland.
Yeah, The Late Late Show used to be the kind of I don't care about anything that's on television right now, hosted by the stoned to bejesus Craig Ferguson.
Yep.
I loved that show.
Craig Ferguson was actually funny.
He was so funny. But
he's been replaced now with Mr. Englishman, Mr. James Corden.
Yeah, who I don't mind. I don't think he's my favorite, but a lot of people really like him.
You know why they like him? Celebrity ride-alongs.
Exactly. Yeah, so James Corden, a lot of his things are musical, but not musical in the sense of talking to musicians, but it's more like painted like musical segments. One of his favorite segments is a musical of blah, 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 blah. So the last time I saw it, it was a bunch of music that was set to the theme of the Titanic. And it was him and Ariana Grande just doing a bunch of musical set pieces and going through the entire Titanic movie. It's fun like that.
He also has rap battles.
He does have rap battles. Those are hilarious.
Yeah.
Bad, but hilarious. Okay, so to replace somebody like James Corden, who is charmingly likable and somebody who is very light and doesn't really stir up too much trouble and not very controversial, I picked Kristen Bell, who literally is a Disney princess. I know her and love her from TV shows like House of Lies and
Veronica Mars.
Veronica Mars, that was it. But, and also The Good Place, which is absolutely genius. You guys should check it out if you have a chance. Of course, she played Anna in Frozen and is just the cutest person on the planet, and she is just such a sweetheart. Her and her husband Dax Shepard usually do a lot of offbeat type of comedies, and I think that would work really well for a show like The Late Late Show.
Right, so
What do you got?
I got the same points as you because I picked the same person. So I picked Kristen Bell solely on the fact that she can do good comedy even if it's written for her. She was in Forgetting Sarah Marshall.
That's what she was, yeah.
and When in Rome, which is a romantic comedy. She was also in Frozen, which brings her voice prowess to the table.
She can sing.
She can sing. So whenever she has to do celebrity driving or she has to do like a rap battle, I feel like she'll be able to hold her own as long as she's got like a team of writers under her.
Yeah.
And she.
Fun fact, actually, about Frozen. Did you know that she did all 3 of the aged voices for Do You Want to Build a Snowman? It's creepy.
Late Night with Seth Meyers.
Woo! Okay, Late Night with Seth Meyers. Now we are moving away from the lighthearted and musical and straight up into politics.
Yeah.
Seth Meyers is basically, he was the head writer for Saturday Night Live, immediately following Tina Fey's tenure as head writer for SNL. And he has his show pretty much written in that exact same format. It's written almost like it's a weekend update. And a lot of his comedy comes from his strength, which is, of course, writing about hot button topics that are going on in the world of politics and just in the nation as a whole. And he is very good at it. Most people I know who are politically inclined get a lot of their talking points from his show. And we would need somebody who is both a sharp writer, has a very dry sense of humor, and is politically astute. So, I chose Amber Ruffin. Amber Ruffin is not an incredibly well-known person because she actually is a writer on the Seth Meyers show. And her segments on that show are always some of the best highlights of the show, whether it be Amber's Minute of Fury or whether it be Amber Says What, in which she just responds to all the black things that are happening in the news by saying different variations of what. Or point counterpoint. She is usually the highlight of the show in one way, shape, or form, and her jokes are freaking hilarious. And at the same time, obviously, she has to be politically inclined in order to be a writer on that show, so I think she would be the perfect person to take up the mantle.
I picked somebody completely opposite.
Yep.
I picked Melissa McCarthy.
Why?
1, because I don't like her. 2, because she ain't funny. 3, because she would bring a comedic aspect to the show of the late night show, which is drowning. It is not drowning. It's not good viewership.
Actually,
compared to the other shows that we've listed,
I would actually disagree.
I don't feel like he's as popular as you think.
Okay.
And I think Melissa McCarthy would bring more viewers to the table. That being said, I still don't like her and I still don't want to see her in movies anymore. So put her on a late show. She is that funny for comedy for people who like that type of comedy. We got Real Time with Bill Maher.
Okay, so leaning from the politics, the vicarious politics, straight into super heavy funk politics, we have Real Time with Bill Maher. Probably one of the first shows on HBO to really cover politics. He used to host a show called Politically Incorrect that ran throughout the early 90s, straight up into the 2000s, until he said a joke about Chinese people and got fired. And then took up Real Time with Bill Maher. Bill Maher is an unapologetic left-wing pundit. He is one of the first atheists to be on his own syndicated show on television.
So he's the opposite of Bill O'Reilly.
He is literally the anti-Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah. Okay.
So you need somebody who's right up in that lane and somebody who can handle that world, because I don't think Bill Maher has ever had a show where he was not getting in trouble for something that he was saying.
Which is why my person's so controversial. I picked Amy Schumer.
Oh.
She desperately needs a reboot in comedy because her last comedy special drew a lot of controversy. It bombed in some places. She got booed in some other places.
Did you see her last movie? I Feel Pretty?
Yeah. I feel her controversialness would just bring goodness to the show.
Okay.
I mean, as we said, Bill Maher has been in trouble for literally just using his mouth.
Yeah,
how much
he
damage
talks way
do you
too
think
much.
Amy Schumer will do on a show?
So, on a show like Real Time with Bill Maher, it really is kind of the grown-up political show. When I say a grown-up show, what I mean is that he very rarely has Hollywood celeb types on his show, even though he is a stand-up comedian and does that. A lot of the people on his show are writers, they're journalists, they're political pundits, they're politicians themselves. He more feels comfortable around congressmen than he does around a group of comedians. So I chose somebody who is very comfortable around those people, and not only that, but has the exact same tenure tenure and probably more qualified to do this job than Bill Maher himself. I chose Whoopi Goldberg, the OG atheist who has been on television talking left-wing craziness since the 70s, I think.
There's only one problem with that. She's on the talk, and Whoopi Goldberg is
on
an
the
old woman. She ain't finna stay up late.
I am so glad that you brought that up, actually, because a lot of people have mentioned that to me. Whoopi Goldberg is younger than Bill Maher. She's a lot more experienced and a lot more talented than Bill Maher. She's actually one of the few people in Hollywood who is what we call an EGOT, which means she's got an Emmy, a Tony, a Grammy, and an Oscar. Color purple. And she is incredibly insightful. She is on The View, and she's with 5 other women, and her voice just immediately cuts through all the BS that they're spewing, and she's usually the voice of reason.
Because she's the most popular or recognizable person on that show, too.
And she also has a really good voice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Whoopi Goldberg would be a natural transition for a female person switching over on Real Time.
Let's go into The Daily Show.
Hey!
This was originally hosted by Jon Stewart, who was a really, really good host for a lot of good years,
Yes.
and then was replaced by Trevor Noah.
Who is also a really good host, and probably will be on there for a lot of years.
Yes. There was an intern on there that I thought would be perfect
I actually
for
agree
the
with you on
Daily
this one.
Show position. Actually, she has her own show on Netflix.
Yep.
I picked Jessica Williams.
Woo!
Now, most people don't know this about Jessica Williams. She's incredibly funny.
She's actually really funny. You see her movie?
Yes.
The Incredible Jessica James?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So funny.
None to say the least, she's been pretty funny. She was used a lot when Trevor was there.
Yeah.
Until she found a new position. She was just way too big. Like, the ceiling broke for her, and she had to leave.
Yeah.
And do her own
She's
thing.
getting too big for that.
But if most of you don't know who she is, go watch her show on Netflix.
Go watch it.
It's really good.
Freaking good.
What I would like to see if Trevor ever decides to leave the show is for him to pick her to replace him.
I'm sorry, I'm just like going out because I can't argue your point. That is a really, really good point. I might be Team Sean for this one. All right, I chose somebody who is a veteran of the talk and also a veteran of stand-up comedy in general. Aisha Tyler, who a lot of people don't know, except for where they know her from. You would probably know her, if you're white, you probably know her from Friends. She dated Ross for a while. She was one of those characters. I know her from Archer as the voice of Lana. And
She's done a lot.
She's done a
shows.
lot. She's like a vet of like comedy. Like she has done so much stuff, and she still looks like she's in her like late 20s, early 30s, even though she is definitely not, and that's amazing. But outside of that, she's incredibly smart, incredibly insightful, and very, very funny.
We picked Conan O'Brien's show.
We don't know why.
It's one of the popular ones too, apparently. So
Conan is, out of all of this family of TV shows, Conan is the wacky uncle of all of them.
because he's weird.
He is a weird guy. His segments are weird. His comedy style is weird. He's very animated and uses his hands a lot. He's kind of like Jim Carrey on speed.
I picked Chelsea Peretti to take over Conan O'Brien's show.
I'm with it.
Chelsea Peretti is known as Gina Linetti on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So you guys already see that weird style coming into play in her weird comedy, which she actually has a stand-up show on Netflix.
Huh.
I didn't know this either.
I didn't know that. I gotta check that out.
Until a little while ago. It's actually pretty alright. It seems to be like a perfect opportunity for her to jump into that show.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
She also has weird mannerisms if you've ever seen her like perform.
She does have kind of a weird thing going on. I chose Kristen Shaw.
Yeah.
She's the voice of Mabel on Gravity Falls. She's also the voice of Louise on Bob's Burgers. She was also a character on 30 Rock. She was on Flight of the Conchords. She is in so much. She was on Archer. She's on so much like she is just like the queen of off kilter voice comedy, and she also has her own stand-up specials that are really jarring. I think if you're going with somebody who is as wacky and crazy as Conan, I think the only place to go from there is a 5'0" woman who sounds like an 8-year-old girl. Last one, and the granddaddy of the bunch.
The Late Show, which is now hosted by Stephen Colbert, which was originally hosted by David Letterman, the man with the top 10 list.
Yes, who created the top 10 list. There you go. But he was taken over by Stephen Colbert, who really pushed it into a political place, which makes sense because Stephen Colbert's background is very political. He obviously came from the Colbert Report, where he played a kind of hyped up
Republican,
crazy lunatic version of Republicans.
So a Republican.
And he's kind of taken that character and run with it for the Late Show.
I picked Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She's known as Elaine on Seinfeld.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much all I know her for, but you've known her for a different multitude of things.
Because I'm a fan. All right, so Julia Louis-Dreyfus, of course, was on came out first in her first season of SNL back in the 80s, and nope. And she worked with Larry David, who she would eventually work with on Seinfeld, which was a smash hit for NBC, one of the most successful shows of all time, and then eventually moved on from that to do a couple of movies, and then switched over to doing The Old Adventures of New Christine, in which
she was a woman who dated younger men and drank a lot of wine.
Yeah, it was great.
I feel like she would fit the role for Colbert very, very nicely.
Yeah.
I feel like she'd wear a pantsuit, which would make it 10
that
times
would be
better.
Pretty boss.
And I feel like she would take it to a degree where there's part comedy and real seriousness. Because I feel like I know that she's a political activist as well.
Yes, she is.
That makes it 10 times
Actually,
better.
out of all the people we have on this list, I think she's the person who can do tonal switches the best.
Yeah.
Yeah. For the Late Show, I have Tina Fey. Not only was Tina Fey a main staple on the David Letterman show in its later years, she was actually one of the people who he brought on for his final top 10. But she is also a mainstay on the Stephen Colbert show as well. She is a huge supporter of women's rights and equality in the workplace, especially as it comes to Hollywood. She has given gajillions of jobs to women in Hollywood. Yeah, I think Tina Fey is obviously great at working with different people in and out of Hollywood. From her tenure as a head writer on SNL, she would fit right into place with working with writers and comedians and all the people it takes to bring a show like that together. And of course, she's not shy around people who are in power, as she's easily switched between doing segments on SNL with Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton to Sarah Palin and John McCain. She can work with anybody, and that's why I want Tina Fey. Boom.
So that was our list of top 8 late night hosts who should be switched by their counterparts of the opposite sex. Let us know what you think, whose list you thought was better. Was it mine, Peat, or was it Marc's? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter. Also, there's a notification bell on the very, very bottom. If you want to know when our videos come out, hit that notification bell and it should pop up in your email like that. Also, follow Qualia Noir. I've been Peat.
I've been Marc.
This has been FanCastit. Stay wonderful.
Bam!
Getting FanCastit music kicking off the ground in a few. Special shout out to Aisha.
To Aisha and CJ from Wise Up, who will be hosting FanCastit Music. And of course, shout out to Kirkland and Courtland, who are hosting our FanCastit gaming segment. Shout out to Melody, who is hosting 1 Minute with Mela. And as always, like, share, subscribe, and follow us on live on Thursday nights, every night, at the same place, at the same time.
Same place, same time, not always.
No, probably not. But